Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be decluttering 11 eyeshadow palettes. For some of these palettes there's not necessarily anything wrong with them. It's either that I have shades very similar to these in my collection. For most of these palettes I do like them, and some of these palettes I just don't wear. The first palette is the e.l.f. Cream and Sugar bite-sized palette. And I have several of these bite-sized palettes and I like them a lot. I like that they're very pigmented, blendable, and they're not very powdery at all. There's very little kickback when I dip my brush into the pans. So I really do like these eyeshadows. The only thing is that I have these shades many times over in my collection, and I'm just not going to be using this palette. Let's see. But I have some ColourPop palettes and Tarte. I have a lot of different palettes that have this color story. So that's one reason I'll be decluttering it. Some of these shades are very similar to the e.l.f. bite-size palette. It's the I Love You a Latte palette, and that's an all matte palette. So I am keeping that one and I'm decluttering this one. And the next palette I'm decluttering is the ColourPop Baby Got Peach palette. I bought this I think maybe 3 years ago, and some of these shades are rearranged. I've depotted some from other ColourPop palettes. So this isn't the original Baby Got Peach, but it has most of the original shades. So I'm decluttering this because I have several other palettes in my collection that have that are peach toned that I like more than this. I have the BH Cosmetics hanging in Hawaii, and I have a dupe of the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes. Let's see, and I have a couple other palettes with a lot of peach tones, so I don't need this palette anymore. When I first got it, I really liked it, and I hadn't had anything like this in my collection at the time. But just over the past couple years, I've gotten so many more palettes that have peach tones, and so that's why I'm decluttering this one. This is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Nude Awakening palette. This is a 10-pan palette that I bought this not too long ago. I think I bought this only a couple months ago. And I do like that the shades are I do like the formula of this palette. It's very buttery and smooth, and I like the texture. I like the feel of it on my eyes. But I'm decluttering this because I have so many shades like these. I have the Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells, which is very similar to this. And these rose gold shades, I have several other palettes that have rose gold shades. So I just don't need this palette. This is a Milani palette that I got at TJ Maxx last year, I believe. And I do really like the formula of this palette. It's very like buttery, smooth, and kind of a creamy formula, which I really like. But I just have these tones in other palettes. There's no reason for me to keep this one. And I believe this product might be discontinued, but I do like the highlight shades in this palette. And I'm decluttering this one for a similar reason. This is the LA Girl Nudes Beauty Brick palette. This is a dupe of the Urban Decay Naked. Oops. This is a dupe of the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette, and I got this because I really wanted the Urban Decay Naked 3, but I just didn't want to spend, all the money for it. So I got this one because I do like the tones in this. But I have purchased a few other palettes that have very similar color stories to this, including like the Too Faced Natural Eyes palette has a very similar color story. And using this palette, I do like the deeper tones in this palette. The deeper shades perform better than the lighter shades. The lighter shades are a bit crumbly. Packaging is very plasticky and it's very cheap. So that's another reason why I'm decluttering it. This is very inexpensive and I do like this product, but I just have several other palettes that have these type of rose gold type shades. The next palette I'm decluttering is the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette. And I really do like this palette. It's just that I don't use a lot of these tones. I don't use a lot of these purple tones. I mean, I know today I am wearing purple, but I typically don't wear that much purple day to day. And I've had this palette maybe about 3 or 4 years, and I got it at TJ Maxx. So I got this palette at TJ Maxx, and I am wearing purple today, but like my day-to-day life, I'm not wearing a whole lot of purple. And I would say almost half the shades in this palette are purple, and I just don't reach for it. I do like the more natural tones in the upper half of the palette. And I did depot one shade. I depotted the Capricorn shade. And I put it into a Z palette. So I am keeping one shade from this palette. And I do like this Pisces color right here, but it's just not pigmented enough for me to keep it. Like, I'll swatch it. Let's see. Like, I like that tone, but I just wish it was a bit deeper. I'm also decluttering the BH Cosmetics Zodiac Love Signs palette, and for the same reason I decluttered the other one. I just don't use the shades here very much. So this is a very, I would say this palette has a lot of light shimmers. And I prefer darker and deeper tone shimmers. Like, I like the gold and the yellow here, but I wouldn't really use these pink tones. And I don't typically wear very much blue, but I did declutter, or I did depot the Pisces shade here, and I repressed it into a metal pan, and I put it in my Z palette. And I do like this Libra color right here, but I would like it more if it was just more pigmented. Like, this is a very light brown shade, and I would use something like this if it was if the tone was deeper. Here's the palette that I have, the depotted shades from the Zodiac palettes. This one is Capricorn from the Zodiac palette, and then this one is Pisces from the Zodiac Love Signs palette. And I have them swatched here. The top one is, let's see, the top one is Capricorn and the bottom one is Pisces. So I like these, you know, deeper shades. My next declutter is the Makeup Revolution, the Emily Edit, the Needs palette. And I bought this palette just this year at TJ Maxx for about $5. And I really like this palette. I like the large mirror, and I like the layout of all the shades. I like that these pans are oval shaped. I think that makes it very unique. The reason why I'm decluttering it is that these eyeshadows, they're quite just ordinary and a little bit bland. I have these shades in other palettes, And I just don't like the Makeup Revolution formula for their eyeshadows. And then this highlighter, it's okay, but I just don't really, I'm not crazy about the formula. And the powder's okay. I do like the bronzer and the blush. Those are probably the two pans that I like the most in this palette. I just don't like the other, I just don't like the eyeshadows or the powder and highlight. So that's why I'm decluttering it. My next declutter is the e.l.f. The New Classics palette, and I have depotted several shades from this palette. Like other people have said, the mattes in this palette are better than the shimmers. So I've depotted 4 shades. I've depotted Noir, Uptown, Earth, and Opulent. And here is the palette that I keep the depotted e.l.f. New Classics shades. It's this quad here. I had to repress them into some new pans. And here's that Color Story swatched. These next 2 items that I've decluttered, I've depotted a lot of shades from these palettes, so they're going to be looking pretty messed up, just to warn you. This is the Alter Ego Artemis palette, and this is a dupe of the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette, and I really do like this, but I didn't realize that most of these shades were cream to powder. So to me, I wasn't getting any product on my brush, and to me some of these shades were developing hard pan. But once I read about this palette and I realized that a lot of these shades are cream to powder, and so I didn't realize that until after I had depotted some shades. So this is what it looks like, just to warn you. This is very messed up looking. But yeah, I depotted several shades and I put them in this into this empty palette. So this quad here, these are 4 of the depotted Artemis shades. So I really like the neutral and very natural tones of this palette. Some of the shades are redundant, like some of the shades are very repetitive. If I had to do it again, I probably wouldn't depot those shades, but I did depot my favorite shades, the 4 favorite shades, into another palette. And my last palette that I'm decluttering is the BH Cosmetics Ultimate Matte 42 Color Shadow Palette, and these shades are very, very broken. There's several shades that are quite broken because I had depotted some of these to use as singles, but I'll put up a picture of what this palette looks like on the screen. But the reason why I'm decluttering this is I just don't use a lot of the brighter shades. I don't use a lot of the pinks and purples and oranges. I do like the more neutral colors. I do like the yellows and the browns, some of the corals, but I have those shades in other palettes, and I don't use the like the teal and the blue and the lilac. I just don't use those shades very much. But I really like the BH Cosmetics formula. I find that the formula is very creamy and blendable. It is powdery, which I'm not crazy about, but I think that I just really like but I think what I like most about the BH Cosmetics formula is that it's very like creamy and blendable. So those are the 11 palettes that I'm going to be decluttering today. Let me know in the comments if you've tried any of these palettes and what your opinions are. Did you agree or disagree with my opinion on these palettes? And please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.